Welcome to the Solemn Vanguard channel. Today we are answering some questions from Twitter. If you don't follow me there yet, go to @MaximSolemn and just follow me. Matthew Bobby asks, do you like comic books? I personally don't really have anything with them, sadly. Do people still use Cardfight Area? Wanted to have a try with the overdress cards with some friends. Yes, people still use Cardfight Area. What is your workout routine? Well, I've been a little inconsistent because I tend to work out with my brother and he had exams recently, but usually the goal is to on Monday do chest, on Tuesday do back, on Wednesday do shoulders, and then finally on the final day, let's say, do arms, so biceps and triceps. As you notice, legs isn't part of that, and that is because I don't like doing it. As for cardio, I tend to no longer eat as much as I used to, and so I don't really have to do cardio to stay relatively lean. However, I do walk my dog daily, Odin. Sadly, Jules is now so old and fat that he's essentially unable to do long walks, so he's like 5 minutes and he's KO, but Odin can, use 40 to 60 minutes easily, so I guess that could be cardio as well. What is your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh deck and why? I'd say probably like Toons, but they suck ass, maybe Cybers, probably Zombies, something like that. What is your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh era / anime and why? I would have to say I have like the biggest nostalgia feelings towards Duel Monsters era, but I prefer GX overall. What are some decks you use in all Vanguard formats and what new teams would you like to see? So my favorite decks tend to be Graveyard Recursion, whether it's in literally any game, like Vanguard, Yu-Gi-Oh, MTG, even Pokemon I guess with Mewtwo, basically graveyard stuff. I like Grand Blue. In MTG, I like Marin. In Yu-Gi-Oh, I like Zombies, like I said. So usually, yeah, graveyard stuff. What is the main reason you don't play Vanguard Zero? Essentially time, and also just it didn't feel the same as Vanguard. Overall, I'm not much of a gacha game player. I currently play one, and it's My Hero Academia, the strongest hero, and I don't even play that all that hardcore or anything like that. I'm just not much of a mobile gamer. And so playing Vanguard like this, it just isn't for me. What is your favorite clan / nation in Vanguard right now? Clan Grand Blue, Nation Stoikea. What are your top 5 favorite songs, any genre? Top 5 favorite songs, that's impossible. Right now you have a blind channel, Dark Side, which is like this Finnish group that got 6th I think in Eurovision with a new metal song. It's very Linkin Park-esque but then with modern metal. Probably As I Lay Dying, not sure which song, A Greater Foundation, maybe another one. There has to be some Linkin Park in there, maybe Linkin Park Don't Stay. Disturbed, I don't even know what from Disturbed, but probably a Disturbed song. Maybe an All That Remains song as well. But yeah, As I Lay Dying needs to be winning somehow. What aesthetic or mechanic would immediately make you want to build a new deck in Overdress? Bonus points if you come up with a new one. I would like to see a mechanic that doesn't require you dealing damage to win. Or at least it deals damage in a non-conventional way. Essentially, in the history of Vanguard, we almost never have alternative win conditions. The only ones we have are the Weird Deleter one, Glendios, and Geese. Are those the 3? And basically, I would like to see those, a control style deck, kind of like MTG, let's say, Coming of the Second Sun, maybe a Lab Maniac type of deal, Exodia, Final Countdown, what have you. Just something that strays away from the smash face type of playstyle that a lot of decks are forced into over time. In Premium, it's not as big of an issue. In Premium, we do have the proper aggro, control, and combo variants because the card pool is just that big. But in V, we never got any of that, which I find a huge disservice to the game. Overdress, I feel like we will get it at some point, but so basically something like that. If you could change one thing about Overtriggers to make them balanced, what would you change? I would turn the 100 million power into 10,000 power like any other trigger. The little special effect, the one-off special effect, cool, that can have some flavor, especially if they keep on developing that, let's say, but just yeet a 100 million power so you can start playing around them. What's the biggest gap in Vanguard content? Man, that's a tough one. Overall, what I lack and what I actually go to other card games for is high-level players making very, very in-depth content. Now, currently, because we don't have events, you can't really do that. Like for Springfest Online, you saw more of this because, well, people topped, so they could talk about why they took certain decks and how the events went and so forth. But even when we had events, I feel like Vanguard lacks a lot of this. Just, I often go to Magic the Gathering decks to watch Patrick Chapin talk about his old decks, or Brian Kibler, people like that who like to go extremely in depth with the theory. Same thing in Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, I like watching top YCS deck profiles. There's a lot of depth in Vanguard, especially premium deck building, that can be covered. And just some people do it, and I enjoy watching those videos, but it's very, very limited. So I would love to see way more of that. Beatrice was your dream card for Grand Blue. True. Do you have any other dream cards in mind for other clans that you play? Maybe even an overdress card that could be a staple for nations in premium. Okay, so a dream card, and this one is going to be controversial. I would like to see a Cray Elemental that gives you a massive payoff for having a Highlander deck. So essentially, I stole this idea from Hearthstone, where you have Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and Zephrys the Great. And these cards essentially say, if all of the cards in your deck have a different name, you get this busted effect. And so essentially that created a new type of deck where people play Highlander decks. So decks with only one copy of each card, slam those cards in, and those cards' payoff is so huge that it's worth running that weaker deck, because obviously, you know, you're running a less consistent deck when you go Highlander. So if we had a Cray Elemental like that does something great, and I'm not talking, you know, Zarzan game break bullshit, I'm just saying like a Cray Elemental that is so good that you would be willing to play Highlander for it, I think that would be very exciting. And I think that would be really interesting deck building wise, and it would make you run certain cards that you normally wouldn't be thinking of because you'd be forced into it. You'd essentially have to start thinking, you know, while this certain card is the very best in this slot, now that I can only run one, what is the 13th best card I can run in this slot? And so that would get, you know, very interesting and creative. So for that reason, yeah, basically a Cray Elemental that does something ridiculous when you're a Highlander deck. And then, you know, some clans will be able to do that better than others, and I understand that, but that's fine. It was the same in Hearthstone. Certain Highlander decks were just better than other Highlander decks, but at least you had another deck type to add into the mix, and that's just very interesting to me. You know, worst case scenario, you even put a date on the card that says after this date, this is no longer legal for play. You know, if you feel like this is too crazy, you know, if you think, oh man, this is gonna break the game at some point, sure, only make it count like 8 months, and then it just automatically rotates out or something like that. If you had to replay an older format, which would it be and what deck would you play? Also, which one do you never want to play again? Okay, wow. So if I had to replay an older format, I don't know. I always find the current format the most enjoyable because we continuously get new cards. And so the current format will, by definition, be the most interesting to solve. If I have to play a format from 2 years ago, we already solved like so much about that there's really no point anymore. I suppose I would want to play BCS Premium 2018 format the most then, because I feel that fall format, I played Grand Blue, and that's the deck I would play again, and I feel like I wasn't playing it as optimally as I could have. And I really, really believe that I could have made it way better against Geese. It already, you know, destroyed other decks mostly. And maybe the only thing that could then stop it was Ange, but other people hadn't actually properly solved Ange until very late into that format. So that one would be interesting. As for formats I would never want to play again, it would probably have to be the start of V. There have been points later on in V where I did have fun sometimes, mostly when Grand Blue got new support or Phantasmal Steed Restoration was pretty fun at first. But when I think of start of V, like the Q4 format, or the one where Zanbaku became good, or the Melody one, ugh. Never again. You sold your index funds a couple months back. Are you still out of the market? So, pretty important one here. I didn't sell all of my index funds. I sold out of the S&P 500 and I bought global instead. I never want to be completely out of the market. With that being said, I am currently relatively bearish. I think there are very good reasons as to why we might see, well, first of all, we have some inflation right now, but you know, some very short-term deflationary forces, let's say, once everything is completely opened back up and the supply chain issues are gone. But yeah, I'm never totally out of the market. I'm just extremely skeptical about the US market specifically. What are your thoughts on the Yu-Gi-Oh ban list? I don't really have thoughts because I'm not a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player. I often see people who have no business having loud opinions about something, Right now, Yu-Gi-Oh ban list, no clue. Might be great, might be shitty. I'm just a local Timmy when it comes to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Currently. I would have to have a strong team and do really good playtesting, similar to what we do for Vanguard, in order to have a really solid opinion, let's say, on a current meta Yu-Gi-Oh! Any band recommendations? I'm really into Sabaton and Iced Earth and looking to expand. Okay, so you're into that more like Viking-ish old metal, something like that, you know, a little bit of a role play, LARP kind of vibe. I think you might like Eluvati, you might like Nightwish. You may like Epica. Epica is amazing. They also use Solemn Tones products, so that makes them even better. Maybe also Powerwolf, and they also use Solemn Tones products, so that's even better. So yeah, those, check them out. Eluvati, Nightwish, Epica. Again, assuming that you like Sabaton and Iced Earth. If you want to go beyond that kind of sphere where you have those orchestral or maybe medieval influences, then you might enjoy something like As I Lay Dying, All That Remains, Killswitch Engage, those types of bands. If you and I were to fight hand-to-hand combat, who would win and why would it be me? Okay, so this one's from Noman. Too bad, buddy. It kind of depends on where in your cycle you are. Noman is a big fan of doing hardcore keto and then getting off and then getting on again. So depending on how lean you are at the time of the fight, you know, that may skew things in your favor or disfavor. What happens to your spare sleeves and where do you keep them? So I actually have a box in which I put spare sleeves. So after, you know, playing with a deck for a while, I will swap the sleeves and then those spares go into a box, and that box can be used to sleeve up trade bait, to sleeve up just cards in the collection randomly, maybe some commons that I might want to use. And sometimes if they're just actually fucked, then they will just go straight into the bin. Which is better in your opinion, Limit Break era or Legion era? So I'm more of a fan of G era, but if I'm forced to pick, I would say Legion era, because the amount of cards out was at least a little bigger already, so you still had a little bit more variety or options in what you could use to build. With that being said, I did play in the Limit Break era and barely played in Legion, so make of that what you will. Do you have a favorite sports car, maybe from seeing it in a movie or a video game? Man, I'm not much of a car person. Personally, I would like to own a Tesla, purely because I think the move is gonna be to go completely electric. But I don't really consider that much of a sports car, so if I have to pick a sports car, it's gonna be the Lamborghini Gallardo, or Gallardo, or however the fuck you pronounce that. Eugene, best deck, yes or no? Asked by GigaChat. Eugene, I mean, I have to say yes now. Also, when will spots open for being your Vanguard apprentice? That's not really a thing. Do you miss traveling for BCSs since COVID happened? Yes. That's honestly like the only thing I need COVID to end for. Obviously, like, it's awful that people suffer from COVID and the people who don't have a job because of it and the businesses being fucked, like stuff like that I know happens. But when thinking purely selfishly, like, oh, why do I want COVID to end? It's only BCSS, because beyond that, nothing changed for me. Have you had any additional aspirations you've been looking into when it comes to other media or markets? I'm constantly learning about other things. You know, I'm currently reading books on blockchain, even though, you know, I already know more about this than I'd say 99% of people, and that's not, you know, trying to be hot. That's just like, if you spend, I don't know, if you spend 50 hours researching something, you're probably better at it than 99% of people. But I more so mean, like, I see the potential for that technology in the future, and not in a way of, oh, I'm gonna do an ICO, but more so building on top of that infrastructure. So I've been trying to learn more about that market. But at the same time, I'm super interested in AI. I'm also interested in getting better at developing. And so I'm just constantly learning. I literally have an app on which I track everything in my life. And one of the trackers is literally skill acquisition. And so at the top, it may say blockchain, and then beyond under that, you may have AI, and then there may be real estate, and there may be like Chinese even. I guess it would be Mandarin. And then within those sections, you have little subsections, because obviously if you say, oh, I'm gonna get good at blockchain, that doesn't mean shit. So, you know, you click on that, and then that skill is mapped out into different sub skills. And so basically that list constantly gets bigger. And then as I learn things, you know, things are removed from that list again, or at least they become more and more and more detailed. So yeah, I'm constantly looking for stuff, but I don't really get loud about anything until I feel like I'm actually gonna do something with it. You know, for every 10 things that I get really into, there might only be one that I really push beyond, let's say. What influences from other card game products do you feel Vanguard should adopt in their own way to add new products or merchandise for players? I think we need premium collections back, and that doesn't mean that they're gone right now. We literally don't know. We've only seen the one product schedule so far, but I just want them back. If I look at Magic the Gathering, you know, the one set or type of set that veteran players, overall just, you know, the biggest lovers of that franchise cling to the most, it's the Modern Horizons and the Modern Masters and those types of sets. It supports those big, overarching, older formats, let's say a Modern or a Commander and so forth. It's also the place where the R&D team can, you know, go the wildest. In Standard or even V Premium, your tools to deal with things are more limited. And so you can't go quite as out there in your card design because there just aren't outs to certain issues, whereas in Premium there are. So for that reason, I would like to see more of those sets because again, they can push it way more than they could in any other format. Who is your favorite villain from the Cardfight Vanguard lore? So I'm not really much of a lore person, so I don't know who's a villain and who isn't. If I had to pick like a villain from the anime, it would be Ren, but for the lore, I guess it would be like Gizeh. Do you think that players shouldn't be vocal, respectfully of course, about their distaste for overtriggers because others are tired of hearing people complain about the one-off constantly? Okay, so I know what this is referring to. If you don't know what it is, essentially people are voicing their opinions about overtriggers and, you know, saying that they don't like them and so forth. And then Different Fight made this video where obviously he talked about a lot of stuff, but at one point he says like, oh, I would like people to stop whining about them or something like that. Obviously I'm paraphrasing, go check out the video if you want to get very, very in-depth. But essentially that's what the message boils down to. The whining about it is getting old. And I disagree with that. Now do note, you know, me disagreeing on one thing with Chris is not a huge deal. We agree on 99% of things and we both want to see Vanguard grow because Vanguard is an amazing card game. But, you know, sometimes there are certain things we can disagree on and that's no huge deal. So with that out of the way, I do not think that it is necessary for people to stop voicing distaste when there is distaste about a certain thing. Now, again, respectfully, there are some people who like to push this way too far. I'm not telling you to, you know, at people on Twitter or you know, whine at developers or send angry emails or something like that. Again, the respectfully part is important, but I do not think that people should just shut up and put up with something when it's shit just because it's getting old. Like, if something is bad, you should be allowed to talk about that. Like, if certain issues in the world or in politics are actual issues and people voice their opinions, we shouldn't go like, oh no, stop it, it's getting old. Like, nah, if it's still an issue, voice it if you actually want to voice it. I do agree that the debate gets very old in Vanguardians and so forth. I'm no longer tuning in. But again, I don't think it's my place or anyone's place to say like, oh, these conversations should quit, unless of course the moderator of a given group or Discord are saying, well, you know, too many members are finding this an issue. But that should come from a local level, let's say, rather than a top-down approach. Overall though, I do feel the debate is mostly settled. If you are a competitive player, you probably think overtriggers suck. And if you are not a super competitive player, you probably think overtriggers are fine. And that is fine. It's okay to not be super competitive. The issue in the debate lies when people don't understand this line. I talk to so many hyper-competitive players who care about playing this game at the highest level and trying to play tournaments and top, you know, consistently and doing well and just being some of the best players in the game. And this is like the most unanimous debate that has been settled from day one ever. At any point in Vanguard history, most people disagree on certain things all throughout Vanguard's life. And this is the first time where every single fucking good player I talk to says, yeah, they kinda suck. So it's really not you're stupid or you're smart or you're not smart, anything like that. It's literally, are you a very competitive player? You think overtriggers suck. Are you not a very competitive player? You probably like overtriggers, and that's fine. There's no point in arguing because these two groups of people literally don't overlap. And every single person I've spoken to, this is just unanimous. This is the most unanimous subject that Vanguard has ever had. So TLDR, no. Voice your complaints if you have complaints, again, respectfully. You're perfectly allowed to do that, but I'm not the arbiter in this, so, you know, whatever. What's your favorite card lore? Sadly, again, I'm not much of a lore person. Also for Premium, do you prefer Ripples or Blue Storm? I have nothing with Blue Storm, I have very little with Ripples, but so if I had to choose, it's Ripples. And so those were some of the questions. Hope you found this interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.